I just interviewed Chris Orzechowski. He's an email copywriter, direct response marketer, and the world's #1 kielbasa salesman. We chat about how to build an email list that actually makes you money, how to sell in every email without being annoying, and how to go from amateur to pro in your content business today. My name is Dillan Taylor. I run Grindstone. We help video creators go full time. And I have conversations with professionals like Chris so that you can make $1 billion and level up your own content. And so if you're thinking about starting an email list, but you have no idea where to start, no idea what to even do with it, you're going to get a ton out of this episode. And so without further ado, hope you enjoy my conversation with Chris Orzechowski. Mr. Chris, in your Twitter bio, it says that you are the world's #1 kielbasa salesman. And we'll get into all of this, I'm sure, but it seems like you have combined your two deep passions of marketing and meat. And I'm curious as to how you managed to combine those two in your career.
Yeah, good question. So the bio, it's funny, like I see so many people's bios. I mean, obviously anyone on social, you're always looking at other people's profiles and I also have my email list too, where I have 14,000 people, just under 14,000 people. So I'm always looking at people's websites and you just start to see hundreds and thousands of bios and how people describe themselves. And I was like, how do I stand out and have something that's so different? And people be like, wait, what? Who the hell is this guy? Right. So I have a lot of clients in the meat space, which is objectively true. And I do a very good job with those brands. I always like to say I am the best meat marketer in the world. And I dare someone to challenge me on that. But I was like, you know what? Does the bio even matter? You know what I mean? And I think what I've noticed over the years with being an online business person is in the beginning, you really want to nail your bio. In the beginning, I am this person and I help these type of people get this kind of result in this time frame. And that's good. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's a good strategy. But as you go on and as you publish more content and as you do more things and appear on podcasts and create products and send emails and, get clients and whatever you're doing, your bio, your name kind of becomes your bio after a while. Right. So the bio line, I always struggle with how do I describe myself? Because, I started off as a public school teacher. I built up a copywriting business on the side as a freelancer. I started selling digital products to my email list while I was doing all of this. I launched an agency in 2020 for, e-commerce email marketing. I kind of wound that down. And now I do a lot of things. I help people with their ad campaigns. I help people with their offers. I obviously help people a lot with email. I help people with general business strategy and scaling. So it's how do you describe that in one sentence? It's kind of hard, and what happens is you come out with a bio and it sounds just like everyone else. So I'm like, A, does this even matter after a certain point in time? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I'm sure people can make an argument that it does. But B, it's how do you just do something that's a pattern interrupt? And it's always good to be #1 in the world at something. So, I was because I think people, you can see on Twitter, how many people actually click through and view your profile, So it's and it's funny, a lot of big name people follow me, a lot of important, I've connected with people who own publicly traded companies. It's wild, the network, but the bio just doesn't really matter. So I just write stuff that is kind of funny or kind of different or unique. And I always like to say it's actually better to be different than it is to be better. Right? Because everyone is saying that they're better. I'm better than this person. This agency is better than this agency. I'm better than that guy or this girl, whoever. And it's okay, but that's all just, what does that mean? How do I know if you're telling the truth? Does it even, it's this arms race. Everyone's in this content and bio and, a promise. They make promises. Everything's a promise arms race. But I'm just I'm just me doing my thing, talking about whatever I want to talk about. And the people who like me stick around. And the people who don't like me don't stick around. And that's the way it works,
I love that idea of being different instead of better and standing out. It's also very timely because I was putting a sort of PDF together for our clients today, and I was on Mr. Beast's channel, his YouTube channel. I didn't quite notice this. I don't know how long it's been this way, but it just says in the bio, it just says subscribe for a cookie.
Yeah.
And he's the best. He's the top of the charts on YouTube. He's the king of YouTube. He doesn't need to put, I'm Mr. Beast. I make very entertaining and engaging videos so that you probably
I have more views than anyone in the world. It's you don't need to say that because again, the name becomes the bio. And if you do enough content, you build a legend around yourself to a certain extent. Anyone can do this. No one's going to ask you to do it. You just have to do it yourself. But the Mr. Beast example is a great one.
Yeah, it's this. As I hear it, there are principles that if followed more often than not, lead to better results. Like if you're just starting out, as I'm hearing what you're saying, it's like if you're just starting out, no one knows who you are. Yeah, it probably makes it easier to make it obvious for them because everyone's a stranger. You need to make it stupidly obvious. Like this is who I am. This is what I do. And I'm curious, how do you know when it's time to be different instead of better? Like when is it time to not just be Chris, the guy who helps clients, sell more through emails? When does Chris become the number one Kielbasa salesman in the world?
There's that saying, like, when you're good, you tell everyone, and when you're great, they tell you.
Mm.
And that kind of starts to happen. And how does that like tactically like look? You just start getting invited to things. Your clients reach out to you. Some guy tagged me from Zapier. Zapier, like the $5 billion software company. Like they use my public content for some AI thing that they made, which I didn't even know about. They just like I found out first by being tagged in this LinkedIn post. Like, so when those things start happening, then like you can just do whatever you want. Right? But how does that happen? Well, it happens because I've been writing a daily email since 2017. It happens because tens of thousands of people have downloaded my lead magnets, have been on my list. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have seen my ads or my content or listened to the podcasts I've been on or been, watching the trainings that I've been doing. So like, it does take some time, obviously. Like it doesn't, you can snap your fingers and it happens tomorrow, but like you'll know when it happens. Like you'll know because people like opportunities just come your way. And like eventually you get to the point where you have more opportunities than you can handle. And you have to start saying no to things because everything that you say yes to means you have to say no to 10 or 20 other things. So you have to choose your yeses very carefully. So like when these things start happening, then like, okay, I'm a guy on the internet, and or a girl on the internet. Like you're just a person on the internet now that like people and on my email list, people are like, oh, I was using ChatGPT and I asked to, for resource on copyright or email marketing, your name popped up and I didn't know who you were. So I Googled you and I found you and here you are. It's just like, cool, man. Like there were that it just happens. It takes time. But like the thing is, most people, they don't see it through. Like, if you look at a compounding interest chart, like in the beginning of the chart, like it looks like nothing's happening, because it's kind of zoomed out. Like there's little fluctuations here and there, but over time it hockey sticks. Most people will stop 6 months in, 3 months in, they'll stop a year in. I've been doing, this is my 12th year being in business online. You know, my list has almost doubled from where it was last summer. You know what I mean? So like we're starting to compound now. Like we're starting to really hit like the hockey stick. But most people, they do not stay in the game long enough. Well, I used to compete in amateur strongman. It took me 8 years to win my first competition.
Mm.
If I'd stopped after year 6, I would have never won a competition, right? And 6 years is a long time to invest. And people might say, wow, 6 years hasn't happened for you yet. Maybe you just call it quits. And a lot of people did. I just kept showing up. Eventually, one year, I won it, right? If I stopped at year 7, when it happened, right? A lot of things in life are like this. And a lot of people, they just don't got that dog in them. You know what I mean? Like they don't stay the course. Like they don't do it, and like, there's hacks, oh, I did this, type of content and on Instagram or on Twitter, on LinkedIn, like went viral. And like, that happens sometimes, sure. But like, really it's how long can you sustain continuously showing up? And most people, they just don't have it. They don't have like the fortitude to do that. Like I'm not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Like I'm just going to keep on showing up every day. I equate it to like, you got to be Forrest Gump. Like Forrest Gump doesn't know where he's going, but he's running. You know what I mean? And he just starts running and he ain't going to stop. And like, if you look at, that movie, how he, that's what he does. He just runs everywhere and look at all the crazy, adventures and situations he finds himself in, meeting presidents, like all this crazy stuff. But like, that's what it is. You just got to be Forrest Gump and keep on running.
What kept you running both in business, whether it was sort of competitions or in business, before you hit anything close to the hockey stick, like really compounding and going up? What kept you going?
I mean, there's a lot of factors, like one of the factors is like, this is my livelihood. This is how I pay, we're a single income household. It's all me, you know what I mean? So like, that's part of it, right? It's like, oh, you're tired. Oh, you don't want to write an email today. It's like too fucking bad. It's like, this is your livelihood. This is how you pay your bills, right? Like, so that's one thing. But I mean, even more so than that, like I got cut from my college wrestling team my senior year. And I probably deserve to be like, after first 2 years, I was pretty much I like lost my whole junior year because I got pericarditis. So like I was out like I couldn't even work out. I couldn't even like train. So I lost that entire year. Tried to get in as good shape as possible. Come back senior year and like lost both my wrestle offs. They cut me, and I was like, damn, like I worked pretty much my whole life to like get there to wrestle Division 1, got a scholarship and everything, and then like really just underperformed. And I told myself, I was like, you kind of did this to yourself, number one. And number two, I said to myself, I don't know what my thing is going to be like in life, but whatever it is, no more half measures. Like, no fucking like taking your foot off the gas. Like, we're not going to make this mistake. We're not going to feel that feeling twice of like falling short of what you could have done. So that's a big thing that drives me too, because it's like, I've been to a very high level and didn't like I took my foot off the gas. You know what I mean? So with business, it's just like in my DNA. It's just like I will not fucking stop. I will keep on going. Like I will not fail. Like it's not even an option. It's not a word in my vocabulary. You know what I mean? So I mean that's a big part of it. It's like, and the other piece of it also to relate back to wrestling as well is like people say like, oh, this is hard. Like online business, it's like it's hard to grow an audience. It's hard to grow a list. It's hard to create products. It's hard to work with clients. I'm like, this ain't hard. Like, I'm not running stadium stairs at 6:30 a.m. on a Friday morning. Like, that's hard. You know what I mean? Like, when you're in a Division 1 wrestling room getting the shit kicked out of yourself, like that's difficult. Like, that is tough. That is mentally taxing and physically taxing and emotionally taxing. We're typing words in a box on a computer screen. Like this is not difficult, you know what I mean? So like it might just be my own life experience, but like I started wrestling in 5th grade, and I like I said I did well and I did okay in middle school. I really kind of hit my stride in high school, and then got good enough to, I broke the single season win record in my high school, place in the state. I was undefeated up until the quarterfinals of the state tournament. Like had an incredible season, got, recruited a few places, got a Division 1 scholarship, wrestled there, for like 3.5 years, I guess you could call it. But like, so this shit, this is content. It's like, what are we doing here? We're typing words in the box. Like things can be so much more difficult. You know what I mean?
I love that so much. I'm going to come back to that. Like just typing words into a box, getting on Zoom calls. Have you heard, did you see there's this clip, it's like an actors roundtable with Denzel Washington, and they're talking about the difficulty of putting a film together, like a movie. And Denzel, they're all just like, yeah, I used to be an actor. I love theater. I love acting. But there's just this, I really hate this preciousness of it. And Denzel Washington, there's this clip where he's just like, yeah, it's just, it's not precious. Like this is a privilege what we get to do. Like we're making movies, we get to show up, we're playing pretend. We put on costumes and we pretend to be other people. It's like, that's not hard, right? What's hard is losing your son in a war. Like that's hard. Mm-hmm. That's pretty difficult.
Oh, yeah.
This is a privilege. So that's what I'm sort of hearing in this case, because it can feel so life or death, right? It can feel like you are basically at war in a way when things aren't going well.
Yeah. I mean, mentally 100%. Like, I mean, and there's, it hasn't like, I also equate this to like investing in an index fund, like over, if you zoom out, the chart goes up, right? But if you zoom in, some days it's up, some days it drops. And when it drops, it's like your whole world is falling apart. And I've had that in business. I've had exceptional months, and I've had months when I'm like, oh my God, I can't pay myself. Sucks. Like, what the fuck am I going to do? That's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like you read bios of like, entrepreneurs who accomplished 10,000 times, like read Kirk Kerkorian's bio. You know what I mean? Like read some of these guys or some of these men or some of these women who like, have built really like successful, but like their stories aren't all like, oh, it was bubblegum and rainbows the whole time. It's like high stakes shit that they're going through, like, and just to bring it back, like we're typing words on the internet, like, it's sure, it has its challenges and it's difficult. And there's times when, there's times I don't want to work and I'm like, I can't believe I have to do this again, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it is a privilege and it could be worse. And the cool thing is like, there's so much opportunity and like, you could really just make whatever you want. So you're like in a war with yourself. And like a lot of the Stephen Pressfield books, talk about this, do the work, the war of art. No one wants to read your shit. Like he's got a lot of good stuff. But he captures a lot of those emotions perfectly, but like pros show up. Like that's the difference. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, well, how did you get to where you got to? I was like, because I show up. I show up and I ship. I ship work. I ship work all the damn time. It might not be my best work sometimes, right? Sometimes I'll write an email and they'll be like, that one kind of sucked, Do I go cry in a corner? No. Okay, I'll write a better one tomorrow. You know what I mean? Oh, I wrote a tweet. I wrote an article. I launched a product. It made 3 sales. That really sucked. Okay. I take the Michael Scott School of Business philosophy. Like if you watch The Office, so Michael Scott, he starts the rival paper company, the Michael Scott Paper Company, and he starts poaching clients. And Dunder Mifflin wants to buy him out, and they bring him to the table, and they're negotiating, and they go, "Well, how much is your company worth?" He says, "My company is worth nothing because if it fails, I will start a new one tomorrow, and if that fails, I'll start a new one tomorrow, and like another one the next day, and the next day." And like that is kind of the mentality I have with everything that I do. Like, how much is my company worth? My company's worth nothing because if it fails, I'll start a new one tomorrow. I will be right back up and running. Like there's no, there's no, I'm not going to fail. I refuse to let myself fail. But even if, the walls collapsed and everything did, I know how to sell. I know how to write. I know how to create. I know how to find problems to solve. Right. So that's why, like, I'm not worried about anything. I mean, sure, I have worries, day to day, and you look at, you zoom out, you zoom in, you look at your P&L, you look at your balance sheet, you look at your trends, you look at your sales data, you look at your ad campaigns, you look at your email list, you look at all the metrics all over the place, right? So like, there's a lot of ways to interpret all that stuff and read the tea leaves, but at the end of the day, like my trend line only goes up because that's a conscious decision that I have made. Like, I don't think people get that. Like, I am the architect of my reality, and that is what I believe. And so, like, if you think negative thoughts, if you let it die, it's going to die. If you say, we're going to make this work no matter what, even if we have to pivot and pivot again or change something, like, you're not going to go hungry. You're not going to starve to death. You know what I mean? Like, you'll figure it out. But a lot of people, they just don't have these like mental, I don't want to say mental strength, but they don't have this like operating system in their brain, and they need to install it fast. Like, you can be anyone you want. You can be anyone you want. You can create anything you want. You can learn how to solve problems. Like, I didn't go to school for copywriting. I didn't go to school for online marketing. I didn't go to school for any of this stuff. I taught myself. I did books. I did courses. And more importantly, I didn't just do that stuff. I wrote ads every day, every single day. I was taking sales letter projects for $200. I was doing stuff for free. I said, I don't give a shit. Don't even pay me. Just let me do this thing. Let me get a win under my belt. Let me get a win for you, right? And then refer me to someone if it works well. Like, that's the stuff that I was doing in the beginning. And a lot of other people are like, no, you should never work for free. Oh, and then they sit on their hands and they get 0 projects. And I got 5 clients that month. And even though I didn't make a lot of money, I view it as like a startup. It's like with a startup in the beginning, user adoption is like the key metric, not necessarily monetization. I said the monetization will come if I get enough users or clients or recognition in the marketplace and people know who I am. And that's exactly what I did. I worked a day job for 4 years while I was building up my business. And a lot of people are like, I'm just going to make the jump. I'm like, you're not making any money yet. You don't have product market fit. You don't have lead flow. You don't have cash flow. So you have 0 oxygen. You are scuba diving at the bottom of the ocean with no oxygen tank and you're holding your breath, right? I made sure it sucked working at my day job for 4 years, but I made sure that by the time I left, I was making just as much money from the copywriting business as I was from the day job. I said, okay, if I get rid of the day job, instead of working in my worst 40 hours of the week, if I shift that energy towards and have the best 40 hours of my week to put into the business, what will happen? And so in 2017, I left my teaching job and been full-time ever since.
Yeah, I'm loving this. This is firing me up just like I thought it would. And I love this concept of going pro, right? Going from amateur to showing up as a pro. And I would love to just sort of double click on that real quick before we get into the tactics of actual email marketing and maybe practical steps that creators or listeners can take. What are 3 aspects or components about a person that tells you immediately in this world that they are an amateur, not a pro?
Good question. The first thing is if you have your phone number in your email signature, you are an amateur. 100% you're an amateur. Like, you are a newbie. You're telling everyone in the world you're a newbie. Like, no one important has their phone number in their email signature. Every time I see this, I don't like laugh at people, but like I just chuckle to myself. I'm like, oh, why are they doing this? Because what and this is a symptom of something bigger. What this is a symptom of is that you do not value yourself, because if you look at the top experts in any field, they are inaccessible, and they are inaccessible by design because there's more demand on their time than there is supply, right? So if you have your phone number in your email signature, that means you got nothing going on. Anyone can just call you any time of the day. And like, if you want to work with me, you have to apply for the privilege to work with me. Like, you have to fill out an application, and then I'm going to look at that application, and then I'm going to decide if I want to take on your project or not. And people might say, like, wow, you're really tough, you're a dick, or whatever. I'm like, maybe, but I don't care, because there's more demand on my time than there is supply of my time, right? I looked at Dan Kennedy. If you want to work with Dan Kennedy, you have to first secure a fax machine if you can, and then you need to type up a very well worded fax, and then you need to fax it to a secretary, and then 2 weeks later, after he reviews it, he will then fax you back whether or not he's going to allow you to pay him $19,400 a day to consult, and you have to pay that fee. And if you want him to come to you, you have to fly him private there, or you have to get on a plane and fly to him and pay him that money and then consult with him for a day. And then after that, he will then decide, okay, now that you have paid me and I have done some consulting for you, do I want to actually write this promotion for you? And then he will take his day rate and multiply it by the amount of days it's going to take him to work on the project. So, like, obviously that's a very extreme example, but like, look at anyone. Like, if you wanted to hire Russell Brunson to consult in your business, like, he doesn't have his phone number in his, like, you can't just contact him. You can't just like show up at his office and be like, hey, drop what you're doing. Like, he's like, I got shit going on.
Russell at gmail.com.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's funny, but like, these are obviously like kind of really extreme examples. But I had my first copywriting coach that I hired, this woman, she was like really dialed in. And she was the one who she broke my brain when the first conversation I had with her. We talked for like 2.5 hours. And like, I realized everything I was doing was wrong, because what I was doing was making myself accessible, and like the power dynamics of all my relationships were like way off. I'd get on the phone with a client, talk to him for an hour and a half and give them all these ideas. And then they would never hire me because I gave them all the ideas. And it's like, that's not what a sales call is for. Like, I had to learn the basics of how to do a sales call. I had to learn all of these things. So a lot of it is positioning. And it's not like a false thing, but it's like, hey, if you want to work with me, I need to determine whether or not I can actually help you. And you need to give me some information so I have some context. So at a basic level, even if you're not like a big name person yet, like, that's how you need to think about yourself. And everyone's like, yeah, but I'm not you. I'm like, I didn't do this when I was Chris Orzechowski, the fucking guy on the internet. Like, I started doing this before I even had clients. Like, I had a handful of clients and I started pushing people to an application. The funny thing was, the first time I did the application, I had like just built the application a day before this guy reached out to me. Like, one day before I built the application, because before that I wasn't doing the application. So this guy reached out to me the day after I got it done. I sent him the application. I said, yeah, sure. Like, just fill out this application, and I'll review everything and let you know, if I think we'd be a good fit, maybe we could work together. And I also was armed with like a sales script of like how to actually run a proper sales call, and said, like, why me? Why now? What is your problem? What have you tried? Not like giving away all the answers. It's like, let me actually qualify you and take you through just a basic sales 101, right? This guy, at the end of the call, I dropped my price. It was too much for him. He started apologizing to me. He goes, you're like the most professional person I've ever talked to. You clearly know your stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, holy shit. Like, all I did was do an application and ask slightly different questions than I used to, but like, there is kind of like, pros have processes, right? And like, if you don't have processes, you ain't a pro. So like, the first thing is the phone number in the email signature. And that's just one of those things that always like kind of irks me. The second thing is people who are like always available. I've seen people, I guess, I mean, it's tough. Like, there's probably a lot of things, but like, sometimes you click someone's Calendly and like they have availability 5 days a week. I'm like, oh, you don't got a lot going on. You know what I mean? Like, I like to try to keep my calls to 1 day a week. I mean, this week was a little bit crazy. Past week, I onboarded like 5 or actually 6 new one-on-one clients for my consulting program. So, I had a lot of calls this week, but normally most weeks I keep my phone calls to 1 day a week. And what I do is I keep them tight. Like, I used to do the hour calls, then I brought them down to half an hour, then I brought them down to 20 minutes, then I brought them down to 15 minutes. And then some clients, I just don't even do a call. I say, hey, here's the price. Now that you know the price of what it's going to take to hire me, would you like to discuss further? And believe it or not, I've closed clients that way. When my second son was born, I didn't have time to do sales calls. Like, I had zero time. My older son was 2.5. My other son was a newborn. And I had my agency, and I would typically do sales calls, and I was like, yo, I can't get on the phone. So what are we going to do? Because we need to keep clients coming in and everything else. So I just said, hey, we charge $600 an email. If you're cool with that, we can discuss, but I just need you to know the price beforehand to determine if you want to move forward. And they said, yeah, cool, awesome. Like, how many emails do I need? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. And part of that is like positioning too. You know what I mean? Like being known for certain things. Like pros have a legend around them. They have stories that people will recant to others. Oh, did you hear about so and so? Well, they're the person who did X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 right? Well, how do those things get spread? Well, they get spread because the person who did them started talking about them. And people don't do this. Like I started sharing my wins, sharing my stories, in my war stories. You know what I mean? And like, so a lot of people knew me, like, oh, Chris Orzechowski, he did that $5 million launch for Philippe already. Kickstarter launch, like 18th biggest Kickstarter of all time back in 2016, right? Chris is the guy who does the emails for Carnivore Snacks. Chris is the guy who worked with Jeff Walker and John Assaraf and all these other people, Robert Kiyosaki and all these other guys, right? Like, so, well, how do they know that? Because I don't shut the fuck up about those things. Like I continuously talk about them. And that's why people, I give them the words they need to describe me to other people. And again, like people don't do this stuff. I'm like, do you talk about any of your work anywhere? Like, do you show your work? There's another book, Austin Kleon, Show Your Work. Like, you don't even need to read the book. It's just show your work. Like, what are you working on? Like, tell people what you're doing. And people don't do this. They say, I got to create content. I'm like, you don't create anything. I don't create any content. You know what I do? I document. It's a Gary Vee thing. Document, don't create, right? Like I just show you, hey, I was working with a client and this is what happened. So here's what I told him and blah, blah, blah. And then this happened. And, oh my gosh, we got to win, right? I do that every single day on different platforms all the time. I do it during sales calls. I do it on podcasts. I do it in my written content. I'll write a LinkedIn post. I'll write an email. I'll put in my product in a video, right? Like I'll do it on YouTube. Like all I do is just share, like I built the legend of Chris Orzechowski, if you want to call it that, whatever, right? Like I created all of that. I mean, it's all real, but like it's most people that keep it in their heads and it's not out on the internet. I think about the internet as like a giant Monopoly board, right? Like, how do you win the game Monopoly? Well, you need to own properties on the board to get paid when people land on them. Most people have zero properties on the Monopoly board. I have a lot of properties on the Monopoly board. I've been on 100 podcasts. I've been in Forbes. I've been in Success Magazine. I've been in Business Insider multiple times. I've been in, I don't know, a bunch of other publications. I've been in the Post Pilot podcast and blog. I've been in OmniSend, Drip, ConvertKit, Buffer. There's a whole bunch of my webs, Financial Times, like all these things. Like I have hundreds of blog posts. I have thousands of social posts. I have 20-something, 30-something products. I've written 3,000 emails to my list, which are little advertisements that live in my clients' inboxes, right? And, so it's like I own a lot of property on the Monopoly board. I mean, there's people who own 1,000 times as much property, like you look at someone, Gary Vee, another good example. He owns a lot more property than me. He gets paid a lot more than me, right? And that's probably why, right? The amount of properties you own on the the amount and the quality of the properties that you own, just like in real estate, same thing happens online.
Cool. Let me do my best to reflect back everything that I just heard as far as what distinguishes amateurs from pros. So amateurs, in principle, don't respect or value their own time or availability. They're willing to basically say yes to everything, oftentimes at the expense of what is the most important thing right now. Mm-hmm. Amateurs don't have a clearly defined process, one that if presenting that process to someone else would make them go like, wow, okay, like this guy has a process. This guy knows what he's doing, right? That's just doesn't exist. And amateurs have no real estate on the Monopoly board. That is business, that is the internet, etc., whatever it is that they're building.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's all like if you nail those three things, like it's pretty hard to not make money. Like people have to know who you are and what you do and the things that you've done, right? And people just don't talk about this stuff. And again, like the thing that I always hear is like, well, you're Chris Orzechowski, you have an email list and all these products. I'm like, yeah, but I started that stuff at zero. I started that stuff with 0 subscribers. But I said, I'm going to be a guy with a list that people read every day. And that's what I built. It's like a lot of times in business, it's interesting about business is like, it's like playing pool. How do you win pool? How do you win billiards? Like you have to call your shot before you sink it, right? Like it's physically impossible to win the game unless you say, I'm putting the 8 ball in that pocket. You will not win unless you do that. Like you have, like that's part of the rules of the game. In business, you have to call your shot before you sink it, right? Like I said, I want to have a list. I want to have products. I want to have clients coming to me. Everyone like cold emails. Everyone's like, I'm going to cold email. I'm going to get clients by cold email. I said, I tried that. It didn't really work too well. A lot of people told me to fuck off, right? Rightfully so. What I said was, I don't like this power dynamic. I said, I want clients to cold email me. Hey, Chris, you've never heard of me, but I would like to pay you a lot of money to do this thing for me. Can you please take me on? Like, I like that a lot better. I like when people do that to me instead of me having to go out and beg people to hire me to do stuff for them. So like that's the dynamic that I built. So I saw that that's what I wanted, and then I went out and built that. And a lot of people, like again, being the architect of their own reality, like they just don't do that. Like you can create any container you want for this business to live in. People like they don't know that like they are the ones who are not only playing the game but also making the rules of the game. I do a lot of asynchronous stuff. Like I try to live a Zoom zero lifestyle. Like obviously, this week with all onboarding the clients and everything, like, I've been on a lot of Zoom calls, but like most weeks I have very few, if any, Zoom calls. And a lot of people are like, how do you do that? I'm like, because I just say, hey, we don't do calls, or, my team doesn't do calls, or I'm not doing calls. I will update you via email, via Signal, via Slack, I'll send you a Loom video, whatever. But I'm not going to get on the Zoom call. And that's what it takes if you want to work with me. And a lot of people are actually okay with that because they're busy too, and standing meetings kind of suck, right? But like, who am I to do that? I'm nobody. I just said that's what I'm going to do. And I did it. You know what I mean? A lot of things in my business have are downstream this mentality. Like I charge people up front for services, and I have been charging people up front for services for a decade. And a lot of other copywriters, they reach out to like, how do you actually like do that and get the client to pay? I say, here's what you're going to say. I'm going to say, hey, excited to get started. Here's the invoice. I accept payment up front. Once that's paid, we'll go ahead and get started. And they say, that's it. And I say, that's it. Like, what else do you need to say? Like, what do you need to do? Like some Jedi mind trick on them? Like, no, it's like, if you'd like to work with me, here's the invoice. And if you don't pay it, then we won't work together and I'll just go to the next client. But like, it's weird, like the mental prison people build for themselves, you know what I mean? In terms of like how they could operate and what the rules of the game are. Like, there are no rules. There's no rules out there. Like you could just do things. You could just do whatever the hell you want, as long as you are helping your clients, the people that you're serving, either through your content creation or your courses or your coaching or consulting or whatever it is. As long as you're helping them achieve outcomes in a way where they're getting an ROI and they're happy with the experience. How that actually happens is kind of secondary. Like people want to cut a check and get an outcome. The method in which that outcome happens is really secondary to them actually getting certainty that they're going to get the outcome, right? So like this is the thing that people don't understand about services or information or content. It's like people want to buy an outcome. So if you can productize the outcome and have a system for delivering the outcome, the analogy I always like to use is like, there's that saying like, to a man with a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And like oftentimes people use that kind of like with a negative connotation, like, oh, well, you're very like single-minded. And like maybe being single-minded is good. Maybe if you have a hammer in your hand, you should just go looking for nails that are sticking out and bang them in for people, right? Like maybe that's all you need to do and just get really good at banging nails with your hammer. Like, people, they just create this little prison for themselves to live in and they never break out.
It can be, I think, very easy for someone to maybe be hearing this, and as you mentioned, like, but you're Chris Orzechowski, like you're at this level. Like, it can sound very easy or effortless the way that you said. You have like this sort of like hard ass approach of just like, this is how it is. I created how it, and that's great, and it clearly works. But I think one of the things that might have gotten lost in the fray there to someone who's listening is to like, but how do I do that? Is like, you have to be good. Like whatever the method is, you said it could be any method to get to whatever outcome, but like it's the outcome must still exist. Like if you, Chris, if you never got anybody any extra sales or any extra email subscribers, say for example, that would be a very different situation. I think it would be significantly harder, if not impossible, for you to, as you put it, be the architect of the business, of your life in that way, because one, there's no word of mouth. There's probably negative word of mouth. Like, actually, this guy sucks. You should not work with him. Mm-hmm. But then internally, you yourself would be like, you have to kind of be a psychopath to have that level of confidence if you have literally no evidence that you have helped anyone do like what you say you help people do.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is like people are like, well, I don't have evidence. Like, go get evidence. Like, go do it. Like, you know, and the other thing too is like, you know, if people are offering services and things, like if you're really good and you know you're really good, you just haven't had a chance. Like another thing you can do is just start your own brand, maybe in like a different space where you're doing your service and you have your case study, or you might make so much money with that thing that you actually don't want to do services for other people. I'm like, that was probably the best outcome, right? Because like, if you're really good at, I mean, some people are like, no, I want a service business, and you know, okay, sure, right, like that's fine, nothing wrong with that. But like I started a wrestling coaching blog. Like that was my first blog where I was doing daily emails and selling affiliate products and doing a pod. I was 23 years old, like interviewing top coaches from around the country, like college coaches, high school coaches, and I was just some guy, you know what I mean? Like I was a decent wrestler. I wasn't like a national champ or anything, where I had like name recognition. I was just some guy who started a blog and started interviewing people and building up a list. And I was doing daily email and writing, you know, sales pages and things before I even knew like what copywriting was. Like I actually discovered what copywriting was, and I was like, oh, that's why I like writing emails, because it's copywriting. And like there's this whole thing. And I was like, wait a minute, I can get paid to just do this. So but I had built a site. Like I had done it for myself before I ever went out and did it for other people, right? So that's another option that you have too. Like if you're good at Instagram, if you're good at YouTube, like you just build a channel on one of your hobbies, or an account around one of your hobbies, and like, can you demonstrate that you could do it? And then you have a case study, right? But again, like, you know, if it's like, oh, well, I do CRO for you know, like 8-figure Shopify brands, well, then that's going to be a little bit tougher. Like you could launch your own Shopify brand. There's obviously a lot more to that. So, but you know, a lot of it's just baby stepping your way in. It's like, what's the first service that I could do, or what's the first outcome that I could help people get? And then like the stuff that I was doing 10 years ago is very different than what I'm doing now. Like now I'm doing, you know, like scaling businesses, which is like a whole, it's not like copy's a part of it, but like there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes into it. It's understanding advertising, it's understanding funnels, it's understanding greater business strategy, market research at a very high level. It's understanding like how finance integrates and cash flow. And like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that like I wasn't doing in the beginning, you know, but I just gradually started just stair stepping up to bigger and bigger opportunities, and just taking all those learnings and adding it to my base of knowledge and the systems that I use. And a lot of it is just systems. Like your business, no matter what you sell, whether it's services, whether it's content, whether it's you know, courses or coaching or consulting or any of these kind of things, like your business is a manufacturer of outcomes. And like manufacture, what does that word mean? Well, imagine you have a factory. Your business is a factory. You're going to have conveyor belts. You're going to have assembly lines within the factory. Those assembly lines are going to assemble certain outcomes for certain people so that people can buy those outcomes, right? So when you start thinking about it using that analogy, like looking at it through that lens, you can start to say, okay, well, if I'm selling outcomes, so I'm not selling a thing. I'm not selling copyright. I'm not selling SEO. I'm not selling social media management. What am I selling? I'm selling an outcome. And then if you're selling an outcome, it's easier because number one, it makes it easier from a delivery perspective, because you say, okay, the only thing I have to do is get this person the outcome. So how do I design the leanest, most efficient system to get someone the outcome? And then once you have that, it's easier to market the business because you are very hyper-focused on the outcome, and there's specific methodology or system behind it that gets someone the outcome. And you have an opportunity to differentiate that and explain how it's different and how it's better, right? So a lot of it is just kind of looking at your own business through a different lens and saying, okay, what are we actually doing here? And a lot of people do this, like, I want to be a copywriter or whatever, right? I'm like, cool, like you can be a copywriter, or you can be someone who helps get a specific outcome on a specific platform. Like me, I was an email guy. And like back in the day, there weren't as many copywriters. I mean, there were still a decent amount, but there's been like an explosion ever since like TikTok. Every, you know, 19-year-old kid thinks they're a copywriting millionaire. Really, they're all full of shit, but whatever. That's a whole other thing. People just lie on the internet. You know, I'll see some 19-year-old, you know, girl I've never heard of. Oh, I make $110,000 a month as a copywriter. I'm like, no, you fucking don't. I would know who you are. I know everybody. I know everyone, right? Whatever. But there's definitely been an explosion, you know, in the amount of people who are interested in it, and amongst other services. But do people want to hire a copywriter? Like, no one wants to hire a copywriter. No one wants to hire anyone. They want to get an outcome, and they will hire someone who can give them a specific outcome. Are there opportunities where they need someone to sit in a chair and execute a role? Yes. And in those cases, it might make sense to describe yourself that way. But I think it's better if you just are someone who delivers outcomes for people.
Then on the journey that you went, right? You said it was just sort of like taking it literally one step up this very, very big staircase at a time. I would love to really break that down if you'd be willing, starting with the 0 to 1. Like, a lot of creators will be listening to this. We have a lot of creators within our accountability coaching program who teeter around the idea of starting an email list, or maybe they have one that's been dormant for years and just like, what do I do with this? What's even really the purpose of this? If someone is, let's start at the very, very beginning. Someone's at 0. Why does it make sense to even have an email list in the first place if you are anything close to the creator space?
An email list is an owned asset. It's traffic you own, not traffic that you rent or that you have to pay for. So everything comes down to acquisition cost at the end of the day. So, okay, like if you want to get clients/customers or eyeballs, if you're like a pure content creator and you monetize through eyeballs, like you have to generate traffic. Well, how do you generate traffic? You have 3 options. You can pay someone for traffic. You can pay Facebook. You can pay Instagram. You can pay Twitter. You can pay Google. You can pay YouTube. You can pay TikTok, LinkedIn, 10 other platforms, right? You could pay another creator. You could give them money for a sponsorship. You could, there's a lot of different ways to buy traffic. You can use sweat equity by creating content. You go and work for the platform by creating the content that people see, which can be good. Obviously, a lot of people do it, right? But it takes time and effort, and you have to know what you're doing. And platforms change, and audiences can be throttled, can be taken away, accounts can be shut down. Email is the traffic that you own, that you can direct any way you want to any offer at any time of the day, right? And it's your data center, it's your database. It's you could take that email list and use it as a custom audience when you advertise. You could send direct mail to those people if you get their addresses. You can email them directly. You can call them up on the phone if you have that information because they're customers, right? Like you own the relationship with those people. So it's the data that you own. It's also the feedback loop. And the other thing too is like it's just extreme leverage. Like when I send an email, 5,500 to 6,000 people a day read my stuff, right? Sometimes more. Sometimes it's 6,500 people. When I post on like Twitter or LinkedIn, like I don't have a huge audience on social. Maybe some people do, right? And maybe those numbers are small to some people, but you're going to make more sales via email. That's where people buy. And you own real estate in the inbox, and you have control because you're not throttled. Like if you have a big Instagram account, 3% of people might see your stuff. 3% view rate, not even open or watch rate, is pretty abysmal, right? I have a 43 point something percent open rate on a list of almost 14,000 people. Pretty good, So like I have a Roman legion's worth of people reading my stuff every single day of the year. Caesar conquered Rome. He crossed the Rubicon with 1 legion, right? I know he had the rest of the army waiting, right? But he crossed the Rubicon and marched on Rome with 1 legion. I have 1 legion reading my stuff every single day, right? That's powerful. There's like, think about word of mouth. Think about the opportunity flow that comes when you have the owned audience and you have direct access to these people. People just buy more through email. They just do. It could just be because people are on social for distractions or entertainment. The inbox is like a to-do list. It's like, oh, I got to deal with this. I got to deal with this. I got to decide what to do with this email and that email. Am I going to open this? Am I going to archive this? Am I going to delete it? Am I going to save it for later? Like you're dropping an item onto their to-do list. Whereas social, they could just, and they're gone, right? So it's just awesome. And it's leverage too, because what I found, like the other thing with content is like, depending on what kind of content you're doing, if you're doing like video content, you got to get dialed up. I got to shave my bald head. I got to make sure, take care of all this. I got to make sure I'm wearing something, I got to make sure I got a good background. Email.
We got to put our black tank tops on to record the video.
Got to put the tank top on. You know what I mean? Like with email, it's like, fuck it. I'm just going to write some words and then money's going to appear. You know what I mean? And like emails is super leverage because like my emails, like I wrote an email today in 7 minutes and I sent it off to my list and got, I think, let's see how many people, 5 people reached out to become a client that I have to follow up with, right? 7 minutes to get 5 client opportunities. Now, am I going to close them? Well, probably not. And that's fine. I'll close 1 or 2. But like, that was 7 minutes well spent, it doesn't take you any longer to write an email to 100 people than it does to write to 100,000 people. It's the same time investment. So it's a linear time investment with asymmetric upside as the size of the list grows.
And that's really cool. I didn't quite think about it until you were sharing all of that, but like, what's the conversion rate? Why is there a higher conversion rate as far as email goes? And I think of just written content in general, like that's a pretty high bar in a world where like we do just swipe and you can just watch like 100 shorts in 60 seconds, depending on, what you're interested in, to basically make a secret silent promise of like, I'm going to sit in it, even if it takes a couple of minutes, I'm going to read these words that this person wrote. That's a decent amount of calories to expend. Again, in this day where shorts exist, you could literally just go to TikTok or YouTube Shorts and just turn your brain off. It's pretty active. It's not passive at all. So yeah. I feel like in order to agree to that there has to be a decent amount of trust, or at least interest.
And text lasts, and it doesn't last in terms of like how long it sticks around, but like things that are written down, like we have books that are, how old is the Iliad and the Odyssey?
At least 20 years.
At least, yeah, more like 2,000 years, like 3,000 years or whatever, 4,000 years, whatever it was, like, and we still read that today, right? Like, so there's something about text that makes it different than video. Video is super powerful. I have nothing against video. It's definitely super powerful. But like text just stands the test of time. The most important things that people do, they put into words, into text, and they put them into books. They put them into essays. Those are the things that really stick with people. Like the stickiest ideas in our world probably originated in text before they were ever repeated on video, right? So there's a lot of reasons why. I think also just, people who can read probably make more money than people who can't read. You know what I mean? As a general, sure, there's people with learning disabilities. I used to be a special ed teacher, right? So like there's people with learning disabilities I'm sensitive to that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying people aren't smart, because there are people who have dyslexia and things who like are smart, just can't read. So I'm not talking about those people, but I'm saying generally, if you look at just distributions of, income and things, there's probably higher literacy rates amongst people who make more money, right? As a general trend. So, a lot of people, they try to dumb down their marketing to like the lowest common denominator, but the people who, again, are going to spend the most probably like to read stuff, right? So that's another reason why. But again, it's in their inbox and it's to-do list. Everything important goes to the inbox. When you lose your password, need to reset it, they don't send it to your Facebook Messenger thing. They send it to your email inbox. Mm-hmm. Like everything important happens in your email inbox. So if you are in the email inbox, it occupies a different brain space because, oh, this is important. It went to my email. I have to check out what this is, right? Everything important in life that's your digital mailbox. That's where it happens. So it's just super important. And like things happen. Like I, used to post a lot on X, and I still post a lot on X. I just shit post and make jokes and network with people and stuff and hang out with my digital friends, all the little parasocial relationships we form. But I used to get great reach on X. I mean, I used to post threads and get 100,000 impressions, 80,000 impressions, 30,000 impressions. Now it's like if I get 3,000 impressions, I'm like, wow, it was a good day today. Yeah. So like platforms change, algorithms change, they evolve. You used to get good traffic, now you don't. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do if you don't have a list? Well, for me, it's not a big deal. Like, yeah, it sucks. I don't get the reach that I used to get on X ever since they changed the algorithm. Is it life or death? No, it's not, because I have my email list.
Yeah, great. Okay, so you've articulated the importance and what makes an email list so different. It's this intimate mailbox that you completely own. It's data, it's a channel, it's a mode of communication that you yourself own. You're not reliant on other platforms, more or less. And so I decide, or a creator listening to this decides, yep, cool, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna build this thing. I don't know if you articulate these or sort of think about these in stages or phases, but like, can you take us through, or a creator listening to this through, how do they get their first 10 email subscribers? And is that different, or how is that different from going from 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000 in your eyes?
You can get your first 100 email subs in like 2 minutes. All you do is you go on your biggest social channel and you say, hey, I'm putting together this thing. It's called whatever title, benefit driven title. If you'd like a copy, comment yes on this post and I'll send it to you when it's ready. And then people comment yes or whatever word. Then you DM those people and you say, hey, I'd love to send you the thing. Can you give me your email address? I'll add you to my list and send it as soon as it's ready. And then you manually import those people. And what happens is when people start saying yes, the algorithm's like, people like this post, they're commenting on it, so it shows it to more people. So it kind of like snowballs a little bit. That's how I went from 55 subs to like 110 subs in like one day. I was like, wow, that was powerful. And I've done that time and time again. And now you can do all these crazy ManyChat things. Like it's a pretty common thing, but like that's what I started doing like initially. And that's how I got from like, the first few people. And then I doubled the list from 55 to 110. And then after that, I just started like I was blogging a lot, which is blogging still good? Like I don't know. I'm sure there's people who'd say yes. But again, like what you're doing in a blog, you do on a social platform. You could write or you could make videos. Like it doesn't, but like everything, you just direct people back. Hey, if you want my thing, sign up here and get it. It's just direct, tell people where to go and tell people to take the next step and design a lead magnet that people actually like, something that solves their problem. Like one of my lead magnets is the amazing 92-word email that converts your unconverted leads. And like it's a 92-word email. You copy and paste it. You add your link. You send it all to people who didn't buy, and then they start buying. And it's a neat little magic trick, and people do it, and they make money. And people are like, "Oh my god, I sent that thing that I got from you for free, and I made $600." I'm like, "Cool, you want to do some more of that stuff?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, I got this course." I'm like, pretty straightforward, right? Like, can you give them a quick win? Everyone talks about like, I got to build trust. Oh, I got to build trust online. I got to be authentic and build trust. It's like, you know what builds trust? When you solve someone's problem. That's what builds trust. If I solve your problem in 5 minutes, you're gonna be like, "Holy shit. I like this guy. I want to buy something from him now because he just solved a huge problem for me." So like everyone's like, I need to warm him up for 90 days, 90 days worth of content. It's like, or you just solve the problem and then like you're good to go. You know what I mean?
It's kind of it. Like it's just producing content. I mean, you could use ads. I'm a big fan of ads because cool thing about ads is like if you have, and this is kind of more of an advanced strategy, but if you have a product, whether it's a digital product that you're advertising on the front end, or you have like an opt-in funnel where there's an offer on the thank you page, you can use a conversion pixel, which means that Facebook, or let's just use Facebook. Facebook is going to go out and say, well, we are optimizing for sales. So we are going to show your ad to people who are likely to buy because we know which people are customers and which people just like clicking on things or which people just like watching videos, right? And those are not necessarily the same group of people. Like they could be very different. So when you're advertising all the time to people who Facebook has data on that knows that they are people who are likely to buy this thing because they have bought things like this in the past, I get to show my ads to those people over and over again, right? And I'm only showing ads to people who are buyers. So whether they buy immediately on the front end or whether they get on the list, they are still someone who Facebook has identified through their own past behavior that they are buyers of these types of products. So my list grows with people who are likely to be buyers rather than people who just like free content. I'm sure a lot of people who create content, a lot of people do this. They're like, I can't sell anything. I'm going to build up my list for a year or 2 years, and then I'll start selling something. I'm like, yeah, but all the buyers might have looked for other solutions by that point in time, and then you're left with the people who don't like buying anything, and they introduce their first product, and then the audience gets pissed because they're like, "Oh, I can't believe you have the audacity to sell something." You can start selling right away, and I think it's good to. And I think like the way you build your list has got to be very intentional, like the lead magnets and even the content you create. Like, who do you want to attract? Like, do you want minnows or do you want whales? Like I want whales, right? So the type of stuff that I do is oriented towards people. It's not for everyone, right? But it's for people who have specific sets of problems. They have specific types of nails that I can bang in with my very specific hammer.
And what makes a crappy lead magnet? I feel like, and I asked that question because I feel like most lead magnets that I see offered are just either bad or are just another PDF, basically. Like if someone just like offers me another PDF, I feel like I would vomit. So like how can you make a lead magnet that stands out and that doesn't actually suck?
I mean, like the idea of using a PDF, it's not about the delivery mechanism. Doesn't matter if it's PDF, it's a video, if it's an email course, like that's all really secondary. Like there's a spectrum that exists.
And on one side of the spectrum are vitamins, and on the other side of the spectrum are painkillers, right? Now, what a lot of people do when they make a lead magnet is they say, I'm going to teach people about something. It's like, it'd be really good if you got this information because you would know more about blah, blah, blah. It'd be really good if you took a vitamin every day because that would really set you up for long-term health. It's very hard to sell vitamins, and vitamins don't command as much of a premium as painkillers do. Like, so the simple test is to be like, is my lead magnet a vitamin or is it a painkiller? Like, what is the pain that it's killing? What is the problem that it's solving? Like, does this lead magnet solve a problem for someone? So, I mean, that's a good basic way to kind of think about it, to start thinking about it. Like, can you use a case study? Sure, right? But again, does the case study demonstrate a specific system or process to get someone to an outcome that solves a problem, right? Like, it always comes back to, is it a vitamin or a painkiller? So if you're just like, hey, here's a bunch of information on this thing, it's like, well, you're offering a vitamin and you're going to get vitamin customers. Like, who buys vitamins? Like, people who, I mean, I take vitamins, but like, I spend a lot more on like pre-workout and a lot more on like other types of supplements that are more targeted at specific things rather than just a general vitamin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So sell painkillers instead of vitamins. I know this is now broader, but as people grow their email lists, what are the other absolute worst, most damaging mistakes that you see people make?
It's not emailing enough. I email every day. I recommend most people do that. You don't have to jump immediately into that. You can kind of baby step your way up until you're comfortable, but like, you can always send one more email than you're comfortable with. And I mean, there have been times when I've emailed my list 2 times a day consistently. And I was like, oh my God, it's so much email. Yeah, but I make a lot of money and I solve a lot of problems and I help a lot of people. So like, you're over here not doing any of those 3 things, and I'm doing all those 3 things, right? So it's like, I guess my system works a little bit better than yours. So I think sending more email in general, like people be like, I'm going to send once a week. Like, you could start there, but don't stay there, right? Frequency is your friend. Like, you go on Instagram, the people with the biggest Instagrams, they post the most amount of content, right? YouTube, they post the most amount of videos. Like, like, it's kind of the way it works. So there's a little bit of volume that has to come in here. But also, too, it's like, who do you have a better relationship? Like, the friend that you text every day or the friend that you text twice a year? Well, probably the friend you text every day. Duh, right? Like, why is it any different? Like, people who have problems, they don't think about it once every 6 months. They probably think about it every day until it's solved. So, like, again, if you're selling solutions to problems to people who have those problems, talk about how you give solutions to those problems and then insert a call to action. Like, people like really overcomplicate this stuff. It's funny, like, there's all these different strategies and frameworks, and I have a lot of that stuff in my courses and things, but like, at the end of the day, like, most of what you're doing is you're answering questions in your emails and you're telling stories, and these could be personal stories that relate to things that helped you learn or discover or shift your own worldview and philosophy. Stories from the work you've done with your clients where you're sharing your work and answering questions that people ask you, and if you could answer them with a story, it's even better, right? Like, as long as you're living in that zone, like, you're good in terms of email. Like, there's a lot of structural things that can go into it, and a lot of copyright techniques and stuff, but like, at the end of the day, it's like, people post on LinkedIn, they'll post on Twitter, they'll post all these other places. They'll make YouTube videos. A lot of that stuff can be repurposed for email. I mean, I like to write the email first and then repurpose it elsewhere, but some people, they'll create it on the platforms and then make that their email. Like, all these things are distribution channels. Email is just the one that works best.
Cool. So not posting enough. Frequency is your friend.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, that's like the big thing. And then like, sell in every email, and we'll say, I can't sell in every email because this copywriting guru said I have to wait 21 days. It's like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, I wrote this email one time and it was obviously like a fictionalized story, but I said, because I went to get, I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee and I went to get an oil change. So I made up this fictional story and I said, I got back from the Jeep dealership. I wanted to get my oil change, but they said, hey, sorry, today's a value only day. We're not going to sell to you. Like, sorry. You can come back next week and we'll have, an opportunity for you to buy from us. Like, how crazy would that be? Like, if a business is like, no, today's a no pitch day. Today's a value only day. Like, what real business would do that? And like, people are like so scared. Oh my gosh, I have to build a relationship. I'm like, you are building a relationship by helping people, by selling them stuff. Like, that's how it works. You know what I mean? Like, again, you trust people who solve your problems. So like, if people have this aversion, and I don't know, maybe it's like they have some childhood issues or trauma, or what, I don't know, their parents said something to them when they were young and they are afraid to sell it. Who the hell knows? I don't know. People got all kinds of wacky stuff going on in their brains, but like, sell every day. Like, let people know. They might not buy the first day, and that's fine, but you have to let them know you have a solution for them. Otherwise, why are they going to stick around? Like, people like buying things. That's the thing. Everyone's like, you got to sell without selling. You got to not be a sleazy salesperson. Like, you don't have to be a sleazy salesperson, but you could just sell stuff. Like, do you want to make money? There's this great Brendan Burchard quote I heard the other day, and he said, in order, like, you need to make the money to sustain the mission, right? Everyone's like, well, I want to help people, and I don't want to sell too hard because it's really about X, Y, and Z. It's really about helping these kind of people to. Okay, but like, you're not going to be in business very long, so you're going to help 0 people because you're not doing this, right? So like, sell stuff, and you have to, like, the best business in the world tend to sell the most stuff. Like, that's like, if you don't sell stuff, you don't have a business. You are LARPing on the internet. You are pretending to be an entrepreneur if you don't sell stuff. Like, cash is oxygen. I made a whole YouTube video about this. I was like, cash is oxygen. Like, you need cash to operate. And when you get cash, the only reason you got that cash is because you solved someone's problem, which means they had a win in their life and you had a win by getting cash. And now that you have cash, you have something to sustain you so that you can grow your business bigger and help more of those people solve the problem that you can help them solve. People, they get like hung up. They're like, I've got to sell without selling. Shut up. Like, just sell stuff. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, I'm so sick and tired. And I've said this in the past because I'm like, oh, maybe this is what people need to hear. And I'm just done with that. I'm like, just sell stuff. Like, people like buying things. You know what I mean? Like, go to a shopping mall. Why are people there? Because they want to buy stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the whole like content, the creator sphere, the people sell stuff on, like, they're very weird about this, about like selling things. They feel like weird or gross or slimy or whatever. It's like, okay, well, you're not going to be in business. Like, you're not going to have a business. You're going to watch guys like me have the business that you always wanted because you are too chicken shit to sell something, right? It doesn't mean you have to be aggressive. It doesn't mean you have to be like a used car salesman, but like, I don't. I tell stories. I tell funny stories, and I throw links and say, hey, if you want some help, here's something that might help you, right? And I'll do some launches sometimes that, like, okay, hey, we have X amount of spots, whatever, like, is that what a sleazy car salesman does? I don't think so. I had a car salesman chase me out to the parking lot one time. Like, as I was getting he chased me out, like, he wouldn't let me close the door. I was like, get the fuck off the door, bro. Like, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? We're writing funny stories on the internet and including links, like, people are very weird, but you have to sell stuff.
Yeah, my old mentor used to say, you can't be the light of the world if you can't pay your light bill.
That's a good one. I like that.
Hard to do when you get evicted from your apartment, can't pay the bills. This is great, man. This is great. And I see that we're coming up toward the end of our time, inching closer to it. And I'm wondering if I could actually take us home by asking you just some rapid fire questions at the end here. What in your career, in your business, what is getting easier and what is getting harder?
What's getting easier is, I don't know, everything. I mean, like, it's, I don't know, I guess, like, writing emails is definitely getting easier. Like, now, there's this, Cormac McCarthy, one of my favorite authors. He was interviewed by some journalist, and he was like, how do you think about writing or whatever? Like, what's your process? And Cormac McCarthy, of course, answered it with a parable about this hunter who was like the best, shot in the county. And someone asked the hunter, like, hey, do you keep both eyes open or only one eye open when you're hunting? And he goes, you know what? I don't really know. And that's how I feel about email. It's like, it just flows so naturally. Like, like, everyone's like, what's your system? I'm like, I just write. I just fire, fingers on the keyboard, and like whatever comes out is what I hit. And after, you write 15,000 emails in your lifetime, it's like you get pretty good at it, right? What's gotten harder is like knowing where you want to go, right? Because like I remember like I hit $1 million a year and I was like, okay, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Like, what do I want this to look like? And like, it's kind of weird, right? But it's like when you're earlier than that, you're like, I'm just trying to get to this level. I'm just trying to get to this level. I'm just trying to launch this product and do this thing. And then like you do it and you're like, well, what's next? And then what happens is by the time you are that accomplished, you realize you could do anything. And deciding which direction, like, there's 20 doors in front of you, but you're only allowed to walk through one of them, right? Because you only have one body. So it's like, I don't know. Which one's the right door? Will I ever know? So it's kind of like the Forrest Gump thing again. It's like, you got to keep on running. You don't know where you're going, but you're going somewhere and you might not know what that looks like. So it's kind of like, it's hard to know because, it's, you have a general idea, but things change or you change. And that's the thing, you evolve, like you're going to evolve as a content creator. Like the things that I talked about 7 years ago are not the same things I'm talking about now because I've evolved. I have different experiences. I have different interests. Like other things, I've written 500 emails on this topic. Like I've said all there is to say. I'm going on to something that excites me more now. So like part of it is just knowing where you want to go next. That's the tough part.
Number one lesson that you've had to learn the hard way?
Oh, there's a lot. How do I narrow it down to one? Number one lesson that I've had to learn the hard way. Don't take your foot off the gas with lead generation. It's a lesson I've learned a few times. Like, I remember years ago, I had an ad campaign that was like just under break even. Like some weeks it was break even. One of the funnels was break even. One of the other funnels was like recouping, 75 cents on the dollar. So like the aggregate, you combine them and it's slightly under break even. But we were growing. We were getting a lot of customers. Campaigns were working well. This is probably back in like 2021, 2020, 2021-ish. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know. Every time we try to scale past $350 a day, it kind of breaks. And like, I didn't have time because I was building the agency. We did a postmortem a few years later, an analysis of the leads that came through. And even though we were like just slightly under break even from those cohorts of people over the course of 18 months, the lowest cohort turned into a 6.4x return over an 18-month period. And the highest cohort was like a 12.6% return on investment, which means you put $1 in and then 18 months later, we collected, 12 times that amount from those leads. And I said, I should have borrowed money. I should have borrowed money to pump into that ad campaign. I should have done whatever it took to scale that thing up. Like and then like I did that campaign for like a year and a half and then turned it off. And then I was like, I was so dumb. Like I could have just rode that wave. So a lot of times it's just like taking your foot off the gas pedal with lead gen. Like you won't feel the effects of it immediately, but 6 to 9 months afterwards, you'd be like, why does everything feel slow? And it's like, oh, because 6 months ago or 9 months ago or even 12 months ago, I stopped doing this thing and I was getting a lot of good leads in the pipeline.
Yeah, that one hits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a painful lesson. The stove is hot. The stove is hot. Mommy told you that the stove is hot, but you still got to touch it and get burned.
What is a philosophy or an opinion you have about creating content that most other creators would disagree with?
I don't think you need much of it, to be honest with you. Like I do it, right? Because it helps. But the thing is, like, it's hard because my business is very like I didn't have I had social profiles, but like I did not do a lot of social media marketing at all. For like while I was building my list, like I did blogging, I did podcasts, I did some guest posts here and there, some private trainings, and then ads. So I didn't do a lot of like the typical content that a lot of these people do. And I grew a big list and like I would see people who have 200,000 followers on Twitter or wherever. And they'd be like, yeah, I made, 700K this year. I'm like, my business made $1 million. And you have like, 25 times the amount of followers that I do. So like, you gotta get traffic somewhere, but like you don't. I think it's good to do content. I think for most people because they can invest the sweat equity and they don't have the capital to invest in ads. But like if you learn direct response marketing and you know how to put $1 into an ad platform and get the $1 back, plus get leads and customers to come along with it, plus all the brand awareness from people seeing your ads, you've just reached a new level. Like you've unlocked a whole new life. So like content's good and I still do it now. But like if I never post a piece of content again, I could just do ads. You know what I mean? So like that's my like hot take. A lot of people are like, no, you need to have content because you need to nurture people. I'm like, no, you need to solve problems for people and then they'll pay you money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been a theme of this, like solve problems for people and then money will follow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Favorite entrepreneur or creator outside of your niche?
Good question. I don't know. I know actually. OW Root, Necktie Salvage. He's a guy on Twitter. He's like a men's style guy. I mean, that's not all he talks about. He talks a lot about like he has a couple Substacks that I'm subscribed to. But he has a podcast. Like his stuff's just great. Like he's a good buddy of mine. We text all the time. But like he's just like he talks about life, you know, which is kind of like a very broad topic. But he's just such a good writer and a good like. I don't love the term creator, but like he's just very good at like just creating like writing amazing pieces that make you either nostalgic or think about things in a certain way. And the style stuff is good too. So like he's probably the one that I follow the most. I mean, there's a lot of guys, you know, like there's all different types of people. I mean, there's a lot of people I follow on Twitter, but his stuff's probably the stuff that I like the most.
Cool. Real quick, why don't you like the word creator?
Like, what does it mean? You know what I mean? Like I view it through like, I'm an email marketer. Like I'm gonna help you with email. You know what I mean? Like I think creator, I feel like a lot of creator people that I know, as long as they are living under the title, like the identity of, oh, I'm a creator, like they don't make a lot of money. And then once they decide like, oh, I'm either this person, I'm my name, or I am a whatever, then they start to like really make a lot of money, you know? And it could just be anecdotal. It could just be anecdotal experience. I mean, I know there's people like, you know, I just feel like creator is such an ambiguous term. It's like, I think a lot of people start there to like put their foot, you know, their toe in the water, and then they grasp onto the thing where they start like becoming known for that thing. And then they assume the new identity and they are still a creator at heart, but like, what is a creator? Like, you can create a lot of different types of stuff. Like I just like selling solutions to people. You know what I mean? Like, so it could just be my own like direct response style of mindset where I'm like, you have this problem, I have the solution. Let's sell it. Let's make it happen, you know? But like the creator word, like, yeah, it's just so like, it feels just ambiguous when I think about it. You know what I mean? And I always see people like, I help creators. I'm like, do you mean someone who sells courses, coaching, consulting, or services? Like, it's one of those 4 buckets. Like, just say one of those 4 buckets. You know what I mean? Like, that's always my thing. I'm like, be specific with me. Like, just which one is it? Like, or is it all 4? And that's fine too. But like, I always like what I do with clients, and this is how I'm wired. Like, everything I do with the clients that I work with, especially in the quote unquote creator space, I'm like, we need to make what you're doing tangible. And we need to make it not abstract, but very specific, right? So a lot of what I do with people is like drill down and drill down and drill down until we get to like here, like again, hammer and nail, like until we have the hammer and we find where the nail is, right? So like, that's why like when I hear creator, I'm like, that can mean a lot of different things. I'm like, just tell me what you do and who you work with. Or if you are that well known of a name, I will already know who you are because you have created enough stuff where you don't have to say I'm a creator. You just say I'm this person and I make these mental associations because of all the stuff that you've done already. So that's cool. Nothing personal against creators. It's just like, I hear that term and I'm like, my brain is like, I need like tangibility.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I get it. Cool. 2 more for you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
What is the number one thing that you have sacrificed to get to where you are today? And what's the number one thing that you've been unwilling to sacrifice to get to where you are?
Number one thing I sacrificed was probably my health. I got like really fat and I definitely still have some weight to lose, you know, and I'm on a downward trajectory, but like I blew up. Like I wrestled 184 and, you know, I would weigh like 225 in the off season. I would cut down to 184. And then like once college ended, you know, I was still probably hanging around like 225, 230. And then I started teaching and then I started the business. So I was working like 80 hours a week because it's 40 and 40, right? As a result of that, I got like really heavy. I got like really overweight, but I was like, I knew my time with teaching was limited and I needed to build this thing. So I was like, well, something's got to go. I guess it's going to the gym. I still went to the gym a little bit, but like I wasn't like doing all the stuff I should do. So like I got really heavy, lost a bunch of weight. Like I said, still got a little bit more to lose, but like, definitely in a better place than I was a few years ago. So that's probably the number one thing that I sacrifice the most. The one thing I won't sacrifice is like my lifestyle and like, I work like 3-4 hours a day. Sometimes, if I got a lot to do, I'll work like 5. Sometimes I'll work 1 or less, like it just, I see all these other people, they got to go to the city, they got to go on a work trip, they got to go here and there. I'm like, I don't got to be anywhere. I got to be right here writing an email. And most days, all I have to do is really write an email. There's some days actually when like I'll have items on my to-do list right here. Just my project management tool right here. Real advanced stuff. And nothing will be crossed off because I'm like, okay, I wrote my email and then I just was thinking the rest of the day. Or I'm like, let me go on a walk. I go to the gym 4 times a week. You know what I mean? I go for an hour and a half at a time. So I start my day. I start my day at 11. I'm usually done by 3, right? So I'm just not going to sacrifice that. I got a pretty good thing going and keep it going as long as humanly possible. Hopefully for the rest of my life. Hopefully I can even work less later on. Ideally, what I'd like to do is get to the situation where like I built my own trust fund for myself. And that's like the real goal. Where it's like, imagine if you had like a trust fund that just kicked off like $50,000 a month, and like whether you worked or not, like how do I build that for myself? Like that's the real mission, right? So maybe I do know where I'm going. Like that's the direction. But no, I mean, like I like working, but like it's got to fit into my life. I got 2 kids. I got another one on the way. It's like, I'm not going to sacrifice that stuff.
Yeah. That's great, man. That last bit is especially inspiring because a lot of people are working incredibly hard. And I think to the point you made earlier, I think it's without the component of like, what am I doing this for? Where am I headed? Basically, what's the end goal? Like, what do I want even my lifestyle to look like? Let's say I get everything I want in the next year. Like, what does a year from now look like? How am I running my business? How am I creating? Sorry, I know you hate that word. No.
I don't hate the word creative. Just creative.
Just
I'm just like, what are you? Like, just tell me what you do. Like, like
I create, man.
It's like I create stuff. It sounds like something from an episode of like Silicon Valley. You know what I mean? Like, what does he do? He's a creator, man. Like,
Though. Yeah. All right, Mr. Chris. Last question for you, sir. It's year 1 when you first started your business. You were working 80 hours a week, balancing the job, trying to get the business off the ground. What, if you could give one piece of advice to that Chris, what would you tell him?
Do I get to transport back in time to the exact date, or is it just a general hypothetical?
I think you can go back to that exact date, assuming you're not going to tell him like lottery numbers or, to invest in specific companies.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that. I would say do Facebook ads, pump as much money as humanly possible into Facebook ads, because Facebook ads were so cheap back then. Like, oh my God, if I could go back to 2013 and, get, clicks for a dime, like, oh my God, I wouldn't be here. I'd be retired. I'd be on a yacht. But I think in general, just like learning advertising earlier and like being willing to turn $1 into 2 with ads. I'm very, very big on that. Like it's hard to do, but like that's why the biggest companies play in that space, because there's the most potential and upside and control. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. It's always tough to answer this kind of question, because like, would you go back and change one thing? What about the butterfly effect? Like, would that change, anything that happened? I mean, maybe better in some ways, maybe worse than others. Like sometimes it's just things that happen in your life have to happen in order for you to be where you're at, and like everything happens for a reason. I know it's like cliched, but like a lot of lessons, like a lot of the gains come from the mistakes you made, the failures, and like realizing like, oh shit, I really should have done that 5 years ago. Like I'm an idiot. Maybe I should start doing it now, So, but I'd say just invest in advertising earlier. And then the other thing that I would say is, yeah, I think that's the number one thing, is just like, I just love ads. I love ads because it's like amazing. Like you run an ad and then someone randomly on the internet just buys your stuff who's never even heard of you before. It's like, holy crap, how is this even possible? Like that happens with content obviously too, but a lot of content comes, it's like, they discover you, they follow you for 10 months, then they finally get on your list. And like, it's more exciting when it's like spontaneous. It's like, oh my gosh, this person just bought my thing, or they just, they came from my list. They don't even know who I am. Like, this is so cool. So I like ads,
Yeah. Awesome, man. Chris Orzechowski. That was an hour and a half. Thank you for doing this. This was a lot of fun, and I thought it would be, but I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate this conversation.
Me too, man. Thanks so much for having me.